My name is Lara. My life at 45 was a testament to what hard work and independence could achieve. Over $10,000 a month wasn't just a number, it was my declaration of success in a high-stakes game. Back when I was knee-deep in the MLM hustle, making a name and some solid cash for myself, Tom came into the picture. He was all charm and smarts, totally taken with the way I managed my business with a kind of independence that seemed to draw him in like a moth to a flame. He started showing up more, offering to help out with business stuff, or just to grab a coffee. I wasn't looking for anything serious, mind you. I liked my freedom, liked making my own rules, and breaking them if I felt like it. But Tom, he had a way about him, a persistence that wasn't pushy but kind of endearing. "You're not like most folks I meet in this gig," I told him once, over coffee. "Most guys run for the hills when they hear network marketing." Tom chuckled, taking a sip of his coffee. "Maybe I like the view from the hills. Gives me a chance to see who's climbing up to meet me." It was this blend of humor and sincerity that drew me to him. Our meetings became more frequent, and Tom's interest in my world grew. He asked questions, real ones that made me explain my business in ways I hadn't even considered. It was refreshing, invigorating, and, dare I say, flirtatious. We'd sit and chat about everything under the sun, and it wasn't long before he started talking about his mom. Now, I've always been close to my own folks, so hearing him speak so respectfully about his mother caught my attention. It wasn't just talk, you could tell he meant every word, held her in high regard. And that, I could respect. "Yeah, my mom's the real deal," he'd say with a kind of pride that lit up his face. "She's been through a lot, you know? Raised me all on her own. She's my rock." Hearing that stirred something in me. I've seen my own parents stick out the tough times, their love and respect for each other a constant through it all. I guess that's what got me seeing Tom in a new light. So, when he asked me to marry him, it wasn't the grand gesture or the promise of a life of ease that got me to say yes. It was the simple, honest love he had for his family. I thought, anyone who holds his family in such high regard, who talks about his mom with that much admiration, he's got to be a good man at heart. We got hitched, and those first few months were something out of a dream. Laughs, late-night talks about where we wanted our little empire to go, weekend getaways, just because we could. I was happy, genuinely happy, thinking I'd found someone who got me, who respected my hustle and had my back. After the initial bliss of our unconventional meeting and the whirlwind romance that followed, settling into married life with Tom brought its own set of challenges. One thing that started to stick out was Tom's relationship with his mother, Carol. It wasn't just close, it was suffocatingly tight. They were on the phone multiple times a day, and our weekends were monopolized by visits to her place. It started to gnaw at me, the extent of his attachment and the expectations it placed on us, especially me. One Saturday morning, as we were gearing up for yet another weekend at Carol's, I couldn't hold my tongue any longer. "Tom, do we have to spend every weekend doing chores at your mom's? I mean, doesn't she have anyone else to help out?" Tom looked at me like I'd just suggested we moon the neighbors. "Lara, she's old, and it's just us. Who else is gonna do it?" I sighed, frustration bubbling. "But, it's every weekend. Don't you think it's a bit much? I've got stuff I'd like to do too, you know?" His brow furrowed, and he crossed his arms, a clear sign he was digging in. "Look, Lara, she's my mom. She's always been there for me, and now it's my turn. I thought you'd understand that." The conversation was going nowhere, a stalemate between his unwavering loyalty to his mother and my growing resentment towards the situation. It was a red flag, flapping furiously in the wind of our relationship, but I chose to ignore it, convincing myself it was just a phase. As weeks turned into months, the red flags multiplied. Tom's sarcasm about my work began to surface more frequently. It was subtle at first, almost playful, but there was an undercurrent of disdain that I couldn't overlook. One evening, after a long day of video calls and client follow-ups, I settled next to Tom on the couch, laptop still warm from use. "Hugh, nailed another big client today. This could be a game changer for us. I said, trying to share my excitement. Tom, eyes glued to the TV, grunted in response. Oh, yeah, that's great. But don't you think it's time you considered a real job? You know, one that doesn't have you glued to that screen all day? I bristled, my enthusiasm cooling into annoyance. A real job? Tom, this is a real job. I'm making more than we'd ever dreamed of. What's not real about that? He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. I dunno, Lara. It's just, all this network marketing stuff seems a bit dodgy, doesn't it? The word stung, a slap to everything I'd worked so hard to achieve. Dodgy? You know what, Tom? Maybe you should spend a day in my shoes, before you start judging. The conversation ended there, but the tension lingered, a thick fog between us that didn't dissipate. Tom's inability to value my career, coupled with his abnormal attachment to his mother, left me feeling isolated in my own marriage. The red flags were no longer just flapping in the wind, they were blaring sirens, warning me of the storm ahead. Yet, I pressed on, hoping for a change, clinging to the memories of our early days. But as time passed, it became increasingly clear that Tom's loyalty was split in a way that left little room for us, for me. The endless weekends at Carol's, my mother-in-law's place, had turned from a mild inconvenience into a full-blown chore. Every visit was the same routine: sit at the dining table, nod along to Carol's lectures on housekeeping and the importance of saving every penny, and watch Tom hang on to every word she said as gospel. It was like stepping back in time, and I was wearing thin. One such afternoon, as Carol went on about the virtues of homemade meals over eating out, Tom chimed in, his voice laced with that now familiar sarcasm. Yeah, Lara, maybe you should take a page out of Mom's book. All that time on your computer, and what do you have to show for it? A strange business that no one understands. I felt my cheeks burn, a mix of anger and embarrassment. Tom, we've been over this. My strange business is paying our bills, and then some. I'm working, not playing around on the internet. He scoffed, shooting a look at Carol, who wore a smug expression. A real job doesn't have you stuck at home all day. It's about getting out there, dealing with real people, not just numbers on a screen. The jab stung, more so because it was made in front of Carol, who nodded in agreement as if she had any say in our finances. I bit back the retort on the tip of my tongue, realizing it was futile. Tom was echoing his mother's outdated views, and there was no winning against a united front. Feeling isolated and misunderstood, I decided to seek refuge with my parents. They were old school in their own way, but they understood the value of hard work, regardless of the form it took. Their reaction to Tom's criticisms was a mix of anger and disappointment. Lara, it's clear he's jealous, my dad said, his brow furrowed in concern. Envious because you're succeeding without having to trudge to some office every day. Don't let his insecurities drag you down. My mom nodded, her hand squeezing mine. You're doing amazing, sweetheart. Tom needs to see that. He's supposed to support you, not tear you down. Their words were a balm to my frayed nerves, and with a renewed sense of resolve, I returned home, hoping to clear the air with Tom. But what awaited me was far from the reconciliation I'd hoped for. Tom was livid, pacing the living room like a caged animal. So, you ran to your parents to complain about me? About us? He accused, not even bothering to greet me. I was taken aback by the intensity of his anger. Tom, I needed some perspective. They're my parents. Who else am I supposed to talk to? His laugh was harsh, void of any humor. Perspective? Or you wanted them to take your side, tell you how wrong I am? They're poisoning you against me, Lara. That's not true, and you know it, I countered, my own anger rising. They're worried about us, about how we're not communicating. It's not about taking sides. But Tom wouldn't hear it. No, it's always about sides with you. Your business, your money, your parents. What about me, Lara? When do I get to be a part of this marriage? Eventually, the tension cooled, and we found our way back to a fragile truce, but the cracks remained, widening with every sarcastic comment, every dismissive gesture. The air was thick with tension, the kind that settles in your stomach like a bad meal, as we sat around Carol's, my mother-in-law's, cluttered dining table. As usual, Tom and Carol were in their element, a duo of traditional views and thinly veiled jabs at my expense. Today's topic of choice, once again, geared towards the proper roles in marriage, a well Carol seemed to draw from endlessly. You know, Laura, Tom started, his voice laced with that familiar patronizing tone. Mom's right. There's more to being a wife than just making money. Maybe it's time you started focusing on what really matters. I clenched my fists under the table, my patience wearing thin. And what, according to you, really matters? Cleaning? Cooking? Being at your beck and call? Carol jumped in, her voice sharp. Exactly. It's about making a home, caring for your husband. Not glued to a screen all day. I know plenty of women who'd be more than happy to take your place, ones who understand the value of a proper marriage. The audacity of her words struck a nerve. Oh, is that so? I shot back, my voice rising despite my attempts to keep calm. You think you can just replace me with some step-forward wife who fits your outdated idea of a proper marriage? Tom's allegiance was clear as he nodded along with his mother's cruel suggestion. Laura, you're missing the point. It's not about replacing you. It's about what's best for us, for our family. Best for us? Or best for you and your mother? I countered, feeling the weight of their united front. Since when did our marriage become a three-person decision? The humiliation of being openly discussed as replaceable, as if I were nothing more than a poor fit in their perfect world, was a new low. Feeling cornered and outnumbered, I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. You know what? If you're so convinced you can find someone better, then maybe you should. I spat out, the hurt evident in my voice. Tom looked taken aback, as if he hadn't expected his words and his mother's to cut so deep. But the damage was done, the line drawn in the sand. I thought marriage was about partnership, support, and love. Not constant criticism and unrealistic expectations, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. There was a heavy silence, one that spoke volumes about the state of our relationship. As I walked out of the room, the sound of my footsteps echoed, a resolute declaration that I wouldn't be belittled or demeaned any longer. After the last blow-up, I was done. Done with the weekend cleanups at Carol's, done with the moralizing, just done. Tom tried to guilt-trip me about it, calling me selfish, saying I didn't care about family. But I wasn't having any of it this time. I had reached my limit. Then came the day that broke the camel's back. I noticed our joint account was bleeding money, a lot of it. Money we'd been scrimping and saving for a new car, our dream car. My heart raced as I logged into our online banking, only to see a massive transaction that nearly wiped us out. I confronted Tom the moment he walked through the door. Where's the money, Tom? The car fund, it's practically gone. He couldn't look me in the eye. I had to use it for something important. Important? What could possibly be more important than what we've been saving for? I was fuming, barely containing my anger. It was for Mom's trip, her dream cruise to Europe. He mumbled it out like a confession. I was stunned into silence for a moment. You used our savings? For a cruise? Without even asking me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tom finally faced me, his expression a mix of guilt and defiance. I thought you'd understand. It's her dream. Her dream? What about our dreams, Tom? What about our plans? I was shouting now, my voice echoing off the walls. He had no answer, just stood there looking pathetic. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called Carol, hoping, maybe foolishly, that she'd see reason. Carol, this has to stop. Tom used our savings for your trip. This is a mistake. You need to cancel it, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Her laughter over the phone was like acid. Cancel? Why would I do that? It's a gift from my son. And as for the money, dear, I'm sure you can earn it back. The contempt in her voice was palpable. You're not even going to consider it? After everything, this is how little you think of me? I was grasping at straws, but I had to try. Listen, darling, I'm not refusing a trip of a lifetime. And if you're not happy, well, Tom's already prepared for that too. Check the desk drawer, she said, her voice cold. I hung up and went straight to the desk, my hands trembling. There, among bills and old receipts, were the divorce papers, signed and ready to go, as if Tom had been planning this all along. My heart wasn't just broken, it was pulverized. I signed them, my hands steady, but my soul in turmoil. Packing my bags felt like I was erasing a part of my life, a part one once cherished. As I zipped up the last of my luggage, Tom finally spoke up. His words were a cold dagger. I saw how you talked to my mother. No respect. You don't deserve to be in this house. You don't deserve me. His words hit me like a slap. The arrogance. The conceit. To think he saw himself as some prize, worth fighting over, after everything that happened. It was laughable, if it wasn't so tragic. Yeah? Well, maybe I don't want to deserve a man who thinks so little of me. Who values his mother's happiness over his wife's. My voice was calm, but inside, I was a whirlwind of emotion. Tom just shrugged, a smug look on his face. Good luck finding someone who'll put up with you like I did. I shook my head, disbelief and anger mingling. Trust me, Tom, the only thing I'll be looking for is peace. Something you and your mother never gave me. Leaving that house, I felt a weight lifting off me. It was the end of one chapter and the start of another. Driving to my parents' house, the emotions were overwhelming. But as soon as I saw the familiar front door, a sense of relief washed over me. This was home. This was where I belonged. My parents were shocked at first, but their support was unwavering. You're back now, and that's all that matters, my dad said, his voice firm and comforting. Mom was more fiery. Let him live with his mother if he loves her so much. You'll find peace now, without their constant badgering. And she was right. I threw myself into my work, my independence blossoming in the absence of Tom's and Carol's criticism. Saving money became easier without the drain of their demands. Slowly, I started to build a life for myself, one where I was in control, where my achievements were celebrated, not belittled. Living with my parents again, I rediscovered what support and love felt like. It wasn't long before I was able to move into my own place, a small but cozy house that was all mine. No Carol to judge me, no Tom to disappoint me. Just me, my work, and the peace I had longed for. Reflecting on everything that happened, I realized Tom was no prize. The real prize was finding myself again, rebuilding my life on my terms. I found strength I never knew I had, and a sense of peace that was priceless. Months had passed since I left Tom and his overbearing mother behind, settling into a rhythm of work, savings, and peace that had long eluded me. My new life was a quiet one, filled with small joys and achievements that were entirely my own. Then, out of the blue, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in a while. It was Carol. Hello? My voice was cautious, the old feelings of tension instantly creeping back. Lara, it's Carol. We need your help. Her voice was shaky, a far cry from the confident, often haughty tone I was used to. I was taken aback. My help? Why would you call me after everything? It's Tom, she said, and I could hear the strain in her voice. He's sick, Lara. Very sick. Lung cancer. The news hit me harder than I expected. Despite everything, I felt a pang of concern. I'm sorry to hear that, Carol. But why are you telling me this? Because he needs you, Lara. He needs your support, your forgiveness. We need the money for his treatment. You were always the one who managed to pull things together, she pleaded. I was stunned into silence for a moment. The audacity of her request left me speechless. You want my money? After you practically pushed me out of your lives? Carol's voice hardened. You can hold on to your grudges, Lara, but this is life and death. You were his wife. Doesn't that mean anything to you? The old Carol was back, it seemed. Being his wife didn't seem to mean much when you two were scheming behind my back, I retorted, my initial shock turning into indignation. Lara, please. I wouldn't be calling if there was any other way. Think of the good times, of what you had with Tom. She tried to soften her tone, playing on my emotions. Good times? Carol, you made sure there were as few of those as possible. You and Tom made your bed. Now, you get to lie in it, I said, the years of frustration and hurt fueling my words. There was a pause, and then Carol's voice came through, colder and sharper than before. Fine. If that's how you want to play it. But remember, you're turning your back on Tom in his time of need. Not me. The call ended, and I sat there, phone in hand, a tumult of emotion swirling within me. Anger, guilt, sadness, a cocktail of feelings for a man who had chosen his mother over our life together, and for a woman who saw me as nothing more than a bank. In that moment, I realized the true extent of my freedom. I was no longer bound by their expectations, their demands, or their crises. My life was my own, built on my efforts, my sacrifices. The call, unexpected as it was, served as a stark reminder of the life I had left behind, a life filled with manipulation and emotional blackmail. As I put the phone down, a sense of resolve settled over me. My departure from Tom and Carol's lives was not just a physical one, it was an emotional and financial break too. I had moved on, building something that was entirely mine, free from their shadows. I started diving into investments, reading up every book and article I could get my hands on, and slowly, I began to see the fruits of my labor. My world became numbers and trends, a far cry from the emotional turmoil I left behind. Word got around, as it always does, about Tom's worsening condition and how Carol was barely managing. They'd blown through whatever savings they had, living a life far removed from the comfort they once knew. And Carol, ever the martyr in her own story, made sure everyone knew how I abandoned them in their time of need, painting me as the heartless ex-wife. I heard these rumors from Jenna one afternoon over coffee. She hesitated before telling me, probably expecting me to react. But the truth was, I felt nothing but a distant pity for them. Can you believe it, Lara? Carol's out there telling anyone who'll listen about how you left them high and dry, Jenna said, her voice tinged with disbelief. I shrugged, taking a sip of my coffee. Let her talk, Jenna. Her words don't touch me anymore. I've moved on, and I'm investing in my future, something they never thought to do. Jenna looked at me, a mix of surprise and admiration in her eyes. You're really over it, aren't you? I mean, completely. I nodded, a smile playing on my lips. Completely. My life's taken a turn for the better since I stopped letting them define my worth. I'm making smart investments, learning more every day. Their opinions, their struggles, they're just echoes of a life I left behind. It was liberating, this feeling of complete detachment from the chaos that once consumed me. The rumors, the pitying glances, they meant nothing now. I was building something lasting, investing in myself and my future. The contrast between my growing stability and their dwindling fortunes was stark, but it was the result of choices we each made. As I continued to expand my knowledge and portfolio, the satisfaction of seeing my investments grow was unmatched. I was proving to myself, more than anyone else, that I could thrive on my own terms. The independence and financial security I was building were my true vindication, far removed from the petty squabbles and desperate gossip of Carol's making. One evening, as I reviewed my investment portfolio, the growth and progress reflected in those numbers filled me with a sense of pride. This was real, tangible proof of my resilience and foresight. The rumors, Carol's bitterness, Tom's struggles, they were just background noise to the symphony of my new life. In this quiet moment of reflection, I realized the true extent of my transformation. I had not only survived the storm, but emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined. My past with Tom and Carol was a chapter closed, a lesson learned, and my future was a canvas I was eager to fill with the colors of success and peace.